quiet. Go on and get crunk. Head back to Longview, Kelly popping trunk. I ain't even tripping. Riding and I'm sipping. Let me come through, 4-4, steady tipping. On that new lap. Watch the trunk crack. Let me sit sideways, CB running back. Maybe AP, maybe AD. I ain't even tripping cause we some athletes. Messing with Smitty in the summertime. He get pissed if we don't make our time. But we gon' get it, cause we gotta finish. Nebraska Horn Hustlers, man, we diminish. Put them boys little, paint like a skittle. I ain't even tripping, I ain't never double dribble. Cause I'm a player from the Himalaya. Let me sit sideways, man. Maybe back door, maybe fall off. Sipping codeine cause I gotta kill a cough. Let me sit sideways in the big Benz. Oh, you boys, they my brothers, they my friends.
All right. Welcome to Fullback U. Yeah, you know, we call it, don't even worry about the Fullback U deal. That's just we can't be an All-American, but you could, you know. Proud of my guy and appreciate my boy Will Johnson coming in. Will, how you feeling?
Pretty good, man. Happy to be here. You know, happy to share any knowledge I can share. Happy to learn anything else I can learn, so it's all good. Man,
you're a knowledgeable guy. I know we're going to see eye to eye on a lot of topics. And again, this is just, it was that fullback deal, man. We were talking off air, just fullback's just a violent position. It takes a lot of knowledge, but man, to me, there's no more position that takes more knowledge than safety, especially with offenses being what they are. Let's just start with that, man. What the hell is it like to play safety in today's game?
If I had to summarize it in one word, I would say chaos. You know what I mean? It's organized chaos. You know what I mean? It's you got to be able to fill routes, to fill formations, to cover guys one-on-one. You got to be able to play in the box. You got to be able to tackle. I mean, it's a bunch of things you got to do, and you got to be able to process all the information at a fast pace.
Absolutely, and I know you're a Baltimore guy, correct? I mean, you know, I have to ask you, and this is
real proud of that.
Absolutely.
Man.
So, I mean, hopefully you back me up. But is The Wire the greatest show ever?
It is, of course.
Just making sure. I mean, you know,
and it's a lot of truth in it. You know what I mean? So that I think that makes it, you know, better when it's based on a true story. You know what I mean? So.
Every season, every episode, multiple times, know every character, it doesn't matter, you know, the quotes, everything. Amazing. Just amazing. I couldn't imagine him. I
couldn't disagree with that.
Yeah, you know, just who's your favorite character on there?
I like Marlo, man.
I was gonna say, man, it's hard to not pick Marlo.
Like I like quiet bosses, you know what I mean? I like how Marlo move. I like, you know, even though he in a different lane than I am, I just like how he's strategic in everything he does. Everything is calculated, and you know, it's a foundational piece that he's always setting up for the next move, you know.
Absolutely. Well, man, just the way they bring the kids into it, you know, naming not being ready. Little man, I forget little man's name, but you're not gonna protect me. You're not gonna protect me. Bud, they did Dookie wrong. Yeah. I feel so bad for Dookie. And then it was Mike. Mike was the man. Mike is the man. So
Mike was the next Marlo.
Yeah. One other thing before we get to OU football, and I'm sorry that you're a big NBA fan. Cool. I've got to get, and before I'm going to give you my thoughts before, and I'm going to set this up, but I've seen your thoughts on Kobe, and I think a lot, I want to give you the backstory. I don't think a lot of people out here like Kobe. Right. They don't. Right. They just don't in Oklahoma. Right. I don't know what it is. Maybe they're not Laker fans. Personally, I'm not a huge Kobe fan, but for me, it's 1A and 1B for him and Mike. Right. I can't put, even with, I love LeBron. I think he's a great athlete. He don't shoot that well. Right. I've seen you talking about your boy too, dude. Kevin Durant.
Yeah, boy.
Offensively,
that boy, yeah, boy.
Amazing. I'll take him. You know, on one leg a lot of times.
Yeah, of course.
Give me some thoughts on your NBA. Give me some thoughts, Mike and Kobe. Give me some thoughts, just what we just talked about.
I gotta clear this up first because I know a lot of guys on Twitter. You know, they give me oh man, you hate LeBron. First of all, LeBron one of the greatest ever. You know, I never ever said he was, and I never ever denied it. Our only debate on Twitter is that he's not the greatest. You know what I mean? It can only be one greatest. You know what I mean? So as far as just being the GOAT, you know what I mean? Everybody else is just one of the greatest, and I put him in the category as one of the greatest. You know, I put, just like you, I put Kobe and Mike 1A and 1B, similar style of play. You know, I felt like, you know, they use stuff for Jordan for his competition, only when it's for the Jordan and LeBron argument. But if we get to the Kobe and Jordan argument, you know, they just give us the straight facts, you know. So I just like it. I just like when, you know, people debate and keep everything consistent. That's my biggest thing. You know, if you're going to debate, just keep everything consistent.
That's real.
And so I just had to get that out, man. I'm not a LeBron hater. I just don't agree that he's the greatest.
Well, listen, I'm a bastard. We fundamentalists. He doesn't dribble as well as those guys. He doesn't shoot as well as those guys. He does. Listen, another thing is people hate KD around here now.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys. I'm not a KD sympathizer. Listen, he went to a team that everybody. I wouldn't have went to that team. He ring chased. Let's just get it out there.
Yeah, of course.
But
I agree.
But Will. That man did too much for my state, for my city. Yeah. He did too much for that, man.
I mean, he averaged 30 as a what, 20-something, young 20-year-old versus LeBron in the finals. So I mean, it wasn't like he came here and he got better due to the competition or to the guys who was on his team. He actually, you know, sacrificed some stats, but he got his wins off. And I think that Durant and Kobe can relate in the sense that they're both guys who are talented on the floor, but they're not likable guys off the floor all the time. And I think that's where those guys get washed out of that greatest debate. You know what I mean? Because you're kind of using both to weigh in on what type of player they were. Kobe was not the most liked player off the court. He was not nice. He wasn't cool for a lot of guys. He didn't have as many friends. LeBron is like the guy who everybody loves. Like, I even admit this. I don't feel I would be a Kobe guy off the court. He's just my guy on the court. I feel like LeBron would relate to me more off the court. But I wouldn't let that blind me from the fact of who I think is just a better basketball player. You know what I mean?
Another place we see eye to eye, and I think we could just tag along to that conversation, is there's no excuses.
Yeah.
I'm a no excuse guy. If you lost, you lost. Like, you know, there's one, like you said, there's one great. And those guys, Kobe, you felt the anger, the heat, the passion. They lost. Like, I'm pissed. It's
exactly.
over. You felt it every time. And I'm with you. Brian is like, I might go to a different team. I might go to you get a different feel.
Yeah.
You just get a different feel. We could talk about that all day. Let's go to, and I mean, we mentioned The Wire. We mentioned Baltimore. Just give everybody a view around here, what you've seen of Oklahoma. Just compare and contrast. Let everybody know what's the same, what's different.
I mean, obviously, being from the city, it's a lot faster. I know we got a bunch of guys that I feel like Baltimore is one of those places where it's not much, and so a lot of guys resort to what they know, you know.
That's real.
And I think that you know, it's not forced. It's not like people are trying to be bad, or I just think that that's how people are eating. You know what I mean? So I think it's tough when you see a bunch of guys who have money and have stuff and they kind of act out, versus some kids from Baltimore who I feel like, you know, he's doing this because he has to eat. And so, you know, I always take pride in my city. I think that, I mean, it builds grit. You know, I mean, I took a couple of my teammates. I took Obo, JT, Stephen. I took a couple of those guys to the city, and them guys could tell you, you know, firsthand, like, it is what you think it is. Like, it is everything that, you know, every TV show that you can think of that, you know, how it's exposed on TV, it's exactly that. So,
man, just if you can, just get through high school. You know, talk about what led you to football.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine, just like you said, you've seen, and you know, Oklahoma City ain't what it is, but I had some of that in mind. You know, I've talked about, you know, just the neighborhood that we grew up in. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of I actually did a podcast a few weeks ago with a few. They're one of six. There's 1,000 police officers in Oklahoma City. There's only 60 black. They're two of only 60. I did a podcast with them, and they talked about just one of them's been in the gang unit for 30 years, and one of them told me that, you know, Oklahoma City used to actually be called Baby LA. You know, gang members that would get, you know, in trouble would come to Oklahoma City. Long story short, flushed us out of our neighborhood. My mother wasn't going to have my brother getting chased home by gangs. That stuff happens. Like you said, I mean, there's a difference between people just running around like Tekashi 6ix9ine,
right.
and
exactly. You know, yeah,
and people who actually, you know, been pushed out of places,
right.
and forced to do things. So I feel you on that. But if you can, you know, just that pushed me to football, because it said, look, they was them cats will use their money to gamble on you. They want to have you out there doing stuff for them. But anyway, talk about what led you to football, just your high school career, that whole deal.
Yeah, I mean, my whole life I was motivated by struggle. You know, I since a young age I had already had a grasp, but I wasn't naive to the fact that, you know, I didn't have much. And I was one of those kids, just like regular inner city kids, that, you know, I thought my only way out was playing ball. But I wasn't a football guy. I was a basketball guy. And I actually got recruited to my high school, which is outside of Baltimore, for basketball. And it was a very nice school. It was a private school, actually. I really didn't have the grades to get in, but because I impressed at the basketball tournament, I took a summer school class, and they got me into the school. The thing that went left was that's all I had in me was that summer school class. Because once I got to the school, the fact that I was a inner city kid who didn't know much, it exposed me. Like, I didn't get along with the rules. I wasn't really great in school, so I ended up, graduating high school for 1.8 GPA. Once I left that school is when I went to Atlanta Sports Academy in Atlanta. I actually played with Deion Sanders Jr. there,
Man.
and that was in Atlanta. There I was just trying to get my SAT score up, because in prep school you cannot take classes. You just take the SAT or ACT until you get a score.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and my GPA was so low that my SAT would have had to have been like out the roof. You know what I mean? So I couldn't really match that up. And so I took that year of prep school. One thing I learned about myself was I was real strong. You know what I mean? So I kind of went from there and went to junior college in New York, and that was when my mind clicked. After I failed high school and I went through prep school, that's when my mind switched that, I would never ever fail again in life. Like, I don't care what happens, I'm never failing again in life. And I went to junior college and got my 4.0 GPA, did what I had to do on the field, and earned my scholarship to Oklahoma.
What was JUCO like?
I got a different JUCO experience than a lot of guys. I'm gonna tell you why. Because I didn't go to a junior college that was a high, like a big name. You know what I mean? And it was a smaller junior college. It was in New York. It was called Monroe College. It was actually pretty decent as far as the campus and because it was a 4-year university for school, but it was a 2-year university for sports. And the one thing that I liked, it was just I met a bunch of different people, a bunch of different guys, but it was tough. It was just like the normal JUCO stories that you hear. It was a lot of guys that came in, not a lot of guys that made it out. And the few that made it out, you kind of build that bond with them guys, and I still talk to them guys today as brothers. You know what I mean? And I fuss with those guys a lot on Twitter. There's a guy on my Twitter right now.
Same shit. Yeah, same shit. They changed.
His name is Trell. His name is Trell on Twitter. But you wouldn't even think that we went to school together, how hard we fuss about Kobe and LeBron. You know what I mean? Or
right.
Mike and LeBron. And so,
right.
But anyway, long story short, all them guys is my brothers, man. Them hard times like that was just a reflection of my life prior to that. So I wasn't one of those guys that was shell-shocked by junior college. I had already been through so much struggle that this was just another little bump in the road to me, you know what I mean? So it didn't really surprise me how most guys are like surprised by junior college, because I've been that way before. I've been in a million struggles before.
That's real.
So that's kind of how that went.
How's a guy that's in junior college in New York get to Oklahoma?
Crazy story, man. So I think my first year of junior college, I actually tore my meniscus in my knee. I didn't play. I sat out and I just focused on school. And that's ultimately how I started my journey for having that 4.0 GPA. Is I got a year to just focus in on myself. And it was my first time in a while I didn't have any sports in my life, as far as having to physically play. And that's when I learned this is one of the words that I carry with me everywhere I go. I learned to compartmentalize my life. I was one of those guys in high school that when I failed on the field, when I wasn't the guy on the field, I let everything else around me drop. My grades drop, my relationship with my mom drop, me and my girlfriend having problems. So you turn one problem into 4 like that. You know what I mean? And I learned that when one thing is failing, like, so for example, if I wasn't doing the best on the field, I was gonna keep everything else at a super high standard. So if I wasn't doing that well on the field, I got a 4.0 GPA. Me and my mom is good. Me and my lady is still good. You know what I mean? I'm keeping everything else intact to where as though I'm not attacking 4 problems. I just got one thing I really got to focus on. And so that's the biggest thing that I hopped on as far as junior college. And when I got there, man, I didn't play my first year. I tore my knee, like I said. And my second year, I did extremely well. I was ready. My body was physically ready. I had rested, and I felt I was a lot stronger. I was coming into my own. And at the end of the season, I remember talking to like Stony Brook and Middle Tennessee State, and I talked to the coaches. They requested me, and I went in the office, and he said, you think you can put some more film on tape these next 2 games? I'm like, of course, man. And he's like, yeah, if you put the right things on tape, man, we definitely interested, And so that biggest thing was me putting some stuff on tape, and I think that was like a Sunday right after the game on Saturday. I'm not sure how or why I never reached out to Oklahoma. I've never sent my film to a school this big. I think the biggest school I sent my film to might have been UConn. Like, that was the biggest school I sent my film to. My dream from JUCO, or my realistic dream, was the MAC. You know what I mean? I was maybe Akron would call me. Maybe Ball State. Ball State was another school that was in the mix. And I don't know how. I know Tuesday morning at, I think, 6 something in the morning, I heard the countryest voice I ever heard in my life. And it was Coach Bobby Jack Wright.
Well, Johnson, how you doing?
That's exactly what it was, man. Yeah. So, we played in junior college so much like that, we would always call each other's phone from like a different number and act like a coach. You know what I mean? Because we wanted to see somebody like really get up.
See, you thought somebody was bullshitting with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's
that's messed
I
up.
almost hung the phone up on Coach Bobby Jack Wright.
That's awesome, man.
But the voice was just so country. I'm like,
it's too
nobody
distinct.
can imitate. Like, nobody can imitate this.
Yeah, it's way deep Houston.
And I was just thinking, I was like, man, he was just talking to me like, we seen some good stuff on film. He was like, you have some of the best technique we've seen in a while.
That's what's up.
And he said, we want to fly you out here this Friday for the Kansas game, and if you're taller than 5'7", we'll offer you. He said, we just want to see you in person.
It's amazing how they do it.
Amazing, man.
It's amazing
It was
how
amazing.
they do it.
It was amazing.
It's amazing what they see at that point, and you can probably talk about that. How important is technique at DB? How important is it to be able to ice, one-on-one cover guys, tackling in space, hit all those points?
I mean, I've seen 4-3 cover guys not be able to run with a soul, and that's because you lack technique. I mean, you could be as physically gifted as ever, and I've seen some guys come through here that's been 2 times as physically gifted as myself, and I've won position battles through strictly technique. I mean, as a pro day guy, I ran a 4.6 and a 40, and I've started at Oklahoma for 3 years. You know what I mean? Technically, that's not supposed to happen if you do the numbers, and
that's right.
And that again is what I go back to as a reflection of my life. I've done stuff that's technically not supposed to go that way. All this stuff lined up that I've been through was the odds were against me, and I'm a big guy who, I firmly believe that no excuses, because I've been against the odds and I've beat them. You know
Absolutely.
what I mean? And so that's why I'm so big on no excuses. But just to get back to, how hard safety is, or defensive back period, without technique, I think a lot of guys who, have been 5 stars and great athletes, they just don't flourish as much as they should, because they don't value the small stuff to the game. It's that small detail is everything in this game.
Let's talk about those small details, if you don't mind. Great job. Give me the X's and O's on this play. I know you remember them.
Yeah,
my producer Brad Reed's gonna put it. He'll highlight it for you and everything.
Okay.
We're gonna make you look great. So
Okay.
give me the X's and O's on it.
I know this specific play right here. I know we was in cover 4, and I knew that I think is it Kenny? What was
Thrill Hill.
Yeah, Thrill Hill from TCU.
Mm-hmm.
He I noticed from just a couple games prior that every time he would see a safety roll to the middle of the field in cover 3, he would throw the ball outside the numbers.
You hear that shit? That's good shit.
You know what I mean? So this
I'm sure the average fan thinks of that too.
Yeah.
No problem.
And I remember being cussed at by Coach Ruff McNeil told me right after the game, like, Coach Mike was cussing your ass out on that play, and just he was like, what the hell is he doing? Because prior to his read, he was reading the field before they snapped the ball, and I pretended as if I was about to run to the middle of the field, and he saw me about to run to the middle of the field when he gave me a hard count, and so in his mind he like, okay, that safety's rolling to the middle of the field, that other safety must be rolling down. I'm like, I got you.
Yeah.
And it was a double move to the sideline. I was already in cover 4, so I was already going to be to that side of the field. And so as soon as the play started, I just sat for a second, not moving, and he just stared down the guy to the sideline, assuming that he already knew that I was going to the middle of the field. And it looked so easy on film, and like, why did he throw that? And a lot of people didn't see what led up to him throwing
Absolutely.
that. So
Pre-snap movements, man. I mean, people talk about it all the time, and that's an NFL play, and that's one thing. And we've been talking about it off air, but I want to definitely get your thoughts on it. That's something that the Ravens started doing early on in 2008, 2009, and I mean that's something that Ed Reed would do. That just, drove people nuts. He would wait until the last minute. He'd be running that way, and then bam, and just switch back, and you're like, how the hell did he
Yep.
cover the whole damn field? Because he started going to the boundary or whatnot, and then play blah blah blah. But man, I love hearing that. That's absolutely awesome. But and then I want to give people some X's and O's on that. You know, I mean, there's no way, and I told him off air, but Brad, there's nobody that has studied the Baltimore Ravens in their prime around here than this guy. There's nobody that studied them more. In our offseason in Cincinnati, I mean, we're going to play the Ravens twice a year, the Steelers twice a year, and our arch rival, the Cincinnati or the Cleveland Browns twice a year. You knew that the Steelers were lining up in this base 3-4, but you did not know where the hell the Ravens were going to line up. You did not know where Haloti Ngata was going to back up and move, where Jared Johnson, where T. Suggs was one of the first DNs to start standing up and moving around. Ray Lewis just sat back in middle linebacker and just ate.
Yep.
Ed Reed gave you fits on the back end. It was a lot to learn, but just talk about, again, you grew up I'm sure a diehard Ravens fan. So just talk about some of those defenses, if they inspired you, if they inspired your football career.
Yeah, I actually know what you're talking about as far as the all exotic looks. I remember 1 year early on, we started doing, just a one down lineman, and then everybody else would just be moving around, just walking around before the snap, and then boom, as soon as the ball snapped, everybody kind of just get to their assignment. And I thought all that stuff was unique. And I actually saw a clip of Ed Reed, like you said. I remember he played against Peyton Manning, and he had something similar to what I had against TCU. He knew that every time he would run to the middle of the field, when the ball was snapped, though, that Peyton Manning would throw it outside the number. So he actually, when the ball was snapped, ran, and then he speed turned right away without even seeing Peyton Manning look that way. He just already knew from film study that that's what would happen if he was going to the middle of the field, and he caught interception, stuff like that. And I think a lot of fans don't understand, how much of a master manipulator you have to be to even make plays in college. Like, I mean, to even start for the University of Oklahoma is tough. It's tough.
It is.
I've seen some guys come through here that are crazy talented, and they have not played much ball here. And I think that, when you go through the process, you get a lot more respect for athletes. So when I watch games, it's so hard for me to critique a corner who got beat because I know how hard that stuff is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fans, I feel like they can't get a grasp of like how hard it actually is. It's like, why can't you
just put a safety over top and double and bubble?
Yeah.
You're like, dog, that's not that. That's not
that
how
easy.
it works. Yeah.
Exactly. Because they play checkers, not chess, while it's chess, not checkers. You know what I mean? So I just think that I like going through this process and actually playing defensive backfield my whole life. I understand how tough it is. You know what I mean? So. Absolutely.
I want to hear, your thoughts on, we've talked about who you think the great basketball players. Who are some of the great football players you saw, especially, at OU?
Ooh, that's. I'm gonna start off.
You start with your team, and then you go against guys against you, or that you played against.
Okay, that whole 2015 offense was elite to me. I mean, from the quarterback Baker Mayfield to Joe Mix to Samar J to Dede to I think they're the best.
I think they're the best ever.
Yeah,
I think they're the best we've ever had.
I would agree. And what threw me off was that was my first ever college team. And because I had only looked at schools like Ball State and stuff like that, I never knew how good that team was because I was just thinking like, if we look like this, then the other team must look like this. I never knew that team was that special until I got to see the later teams, and I can compare it to that now. You know what I mean? Like the 2015 team was actually so good to me, and like dudes like Joe Mix, I was like you might be one of the best I've seen. Like, you know what I mean? Like, your size, your speed, that combination is rare. You can catch the ball at the backfield. You can actually run like a runner. I mean, it was just so rare to me. And then Shep was one of them guys that gave me fits in practice. Like, I mean, I feel like I earned a lot of respect from early on just because I was one of those grit guys that I'm a bang with anybody. You know what I mean? But from a technical standpoint and like what he brings to the game,
he's athletic, dude.
He knows a lot. He's not one of those receivers that's just athletic and reliant. He has it mentally and physically, and I really respect Shep as a player. And then later on in my career, I mean Mark Andrews as well, and then guys like Hollywood Brown, Jeff Badette. Like, I've never seen that type of speed before. Like, really to be able to run your 40 on the field type of speed is different. Because I know guys that are 4.3, but on the field they like 4.5, 4.4. Them guys like run 4.3 on like pro day and in the game. So that's what makes it different. You know what I mean? So.
Guys, other teams that you saw.
Man, I like that 2015 Baylor team, man. They were lazy at times, but when it got clicking, man, Corey Coleman,
Beast.
What's my other guy name? Katie Cannon.
Yeah.
Shock Linwood, and then of course, man, the guy Patrick Mahomes, man.
Yeah,
you know, that was the toughest night of my life ever.
I believe it.
You know, that was a tough. I didn't know how good Patrick Mahomes. I don't think anybody knew he was this good. How he playing now, but I had already got into the mindset, and this one thing that is tough for players. It's tough for players to just step back away for a second and just feel a game. I had compared what I did in 2015 to 2016 before I went into that game. I was thinking, like, I remember last year they was telling me that Texas Tech had all these good receivers. They had Jakeem Grant, who I played real well against.
A little short, fast cat.
Exactly,
He made the Dolphins, I think.
Exactly, yeah. And he got to run a 4.19 in the 40. So he was a guy that could fly, and I thought I did very well against him. So I went into 2016 thinking, like, I played guys like this before, man. It's just another game.
And Tech is a crazy place too. That's a different place.
Exactly.
So.
And that's where I learned to I fell for the trap. I kind of went in there, and I just thought it would happen because it happened last year. And that's one thing I preach to players now. Like, right now we're a one-loss team in the Big 12, and I know that we've been that before in 2015, and you've seen it again in 2017. But you can lose too if you think that it's just going to win out because we won out in the past. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, don't think that it's just going to be the same story because the story's been there before. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I preach a lot, though.
Everybody's gonna want to know. They see you on the sidelines, and you mentioned that. But what are your coach? I just asked you, what are your coaching goals?
I got big goals for this coaching thing, man.
Don't forget about me, bro. I'm ready when you are.
I got you, bro. No, I got big goals for this coaching thing. I've actually been coaching before I started coaching. And what I mean by that is, even when I was a player at the University of Oklahoma, I was mentoring guys mentally and just helping guys technique wise, because that was what I did. The thing I didn't do well was things that you can't teach, speed, you know what I mean, or stuff like that. And that's stuff that's God given. Anything that you had to think or practice at, like, I felt as though I was one of those guys that stood out as far as anything that you had to earn. You wasn't born with this type of stuff. You're not born with technique of the corner. Mm-hmm. That's something you got to work on. And so just early on, I would always mentor the younger guys and, just go through technique stuff. And I seen results, you know what I mean? I wasn't just talking and it wasn't sticking with them. And the one thing that, the coach hop on now is if you can't read a room, you can't land a message. And I've always been a guy who I felt I could feel people. I'm a people person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've seen so many different type of backgrounds. Coming from Baltimore, moving to Oklahoma, going to junior college in New York, going to Atlanta. I've been through so much, seen so many different types of people that, I can relate to so many different types of backgrounds.
Yeah. And I've seen you, not to credit you, but yeah, man, I've seen you pull dudes aside. You don't have to be there for a lot of fans that don't know, man. He could be leaving. You could be gone somewhere. Even when you were a player, you could be just going home. You could be not doing whatever, but you're still just sticking around, hanging with guys. That's something that a captain and a leader does. It has a bright future for you in coaching. If you ask me, how much was Mike Stoops an influence on you? Talk about his coaching to you. Let me know.
I know a lot of guys didn't understand Mike, but
he did a pod here. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't see that.
Right before he went to Alabama,
oh,
man.
Wow,
yeah.
I gotta check that out.
Okay.
I definitely gotta check that out. But no, I love Mike Stoops, man. Everybody know that. He was one of those guys that, and I'm not one of those guys who feel like I don't get mad at a coach for not feeling me right away. Because when I first came in, honestly, I don't think they was feeling me. You know what I mean? And it reflect. I was a guy when I first came in. I was suspended for my first game at Akron, due to attendance and stuff like that. When I first came in, I was on the scout team actually for my first 3 weeks. I didn't even get a call over to actually practice with the guys until after week 3, and then Texas week I practiced with the guys, and then I did well when I came up. And that Texas week, we kind of lost to Texas. And, I got in the mix. But Mike Stoops is one of those guys that originally we didn't have the best relationship. And I didn't have the best relationship with Kerry Cooks initially either. But I felt like when they saw a guy who didn't let that phase him and just actually earn something, like I wasn't one of those guys who I was coming in and they really wanted me to play. You know what I mean? I think I understand. Because being an older guy, I knew that every guy coming in recruited wasn't a guy you wanted to play. Some guys you just need to fill a roster out. You know what I mean? And there's guys you might have to need right now, and some guys you might just think just give them a chance. And I was one of those give them a chance guys. And so I think that I earned their respect with my fight, and I fought the right way. I wasn't one of those guys that my parents are calling you or any. You don't ever have to talk to my parents or anything. I'm going to win this the way I win it. You know what I mean?
Real.
I'm not even going to ask you after practice. I'm not going to talk to you, coach. I don't want to meet with you. You gotta like what I put on tape, and that's it. You know what I mean? And I think that when I earned that respect like that, it was so real and authentic that our relationship got like this. You know what I mean? And that was Coach Mike and Coach Cooks.
That's real.
And I think that's where my respect comes from in the program. You know what I mean?
I forgot to mention, you got undoubtedly got to play teammates with the greatest fullback that OU's ever had with Dimitri Flowers. So what was that like?
Man, Meach was one of like me almost. He was a master manipulator. You know what I mean?
I'm blocking. Yeah, shit, I'm going deep. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And the thing about Meach was, he really he didn't have too many weaknesses other than he wasn't just God-givenly fast. You know what I mean? But he made up for that with craftiness, with savviness, instincts, and smarts, and that's one of those guys. You just a football player, bro. You got a great feel for the game. You really don't even need the athletic ability of some of these guys, and you can make more plays without that athletic ability. Those are the guys that they're football players. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's real. But shit, we tell each other that we're the best athletes on the field, so that don't matter whatever you feel like. So we'll talk about Bob and Link. That transition, and we'll do these fan questions, which just was an awesome brother. So, but just talk about. I believe you were around for that transition. And you saw Lincoln, grow with that. So just talk about that.
Yeah, I was actually one of the first guys who I remember Bob retired, and we got the message in the locker room, and I just remember all the freshman guys just with that stunned face and that look, and they was like, "Whoa, is the program about to go downhill? Like, what's going on? Like, why is he retiring? Like, everybody just kind of, just lost in the whirlwind." And I remember telling myself, like, just focus. Like, it does not matter who the coach is here. Like, what does that matter to your brand of football right now? And I remember walking out the locker room, and there was some reporters there, and he had asked me, like, how you feel about the transition from Bob to Coach Lincoln? And I was just like, one great coach to another, man. I was like, I think my exact words is, I don't think that Coach Bob Stoops, with the person he is, will hand the job to a guy he doesn't, trust or know that he can do this. Because Bob's been doing it so long, he has a feel for who could be next in this thing. You know what I mean? And I've always had the biggest respect for Coach Link, the biggest respect, because he's one of those guys that, him being a quarterback, he understands how smart I was because he was that type of guy that was a smart guy. Just one of those things where we were the same type of guy mentally, even though he played offense. He was one of those guys that he loved players who could think the game. You know what I mean? And he loved my versatility and stuff like that when he was an offensive coordinator. And I just naturally had a great respect for him, just going against his offense all the time, me going against him as well.
That's real. I was actually on campus that day. I took some kids down. I was doing some personal training and took some kids down to OU camp, man. And I was in the damn facility, and man, I saw a tweet that he had retired, and man, I about damn cried because it wasn't even that really. It was we was in the indoor. And my freshman year, bro, the indoor wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? And the winter of my freshman year, we moved into that hoe. Brand new, nothing in there. That shit was miserable, fam. Because there was, if there's nothing in there,
they can run you
wherever. Exactly. These 600-yard shuttles.
Bring some couches in
here. Shit, they got equipment in there now. I'm like, y'all can't run 200. 400s around this hoe. Y'all can't run 200. So, yeah, man. So that shit
cut
was
them corners
awful.
a little bit.
Yeah. But just thinking about how much they built that shit up, man. I mean, because they used to, if it was raining, we used to have to go just to that indoor track that was right behind that little deal, so you couldn't run more than 200s, and you got 60 people out there, 80 people, you ain't gonna do that. So anyway, we go on that shit about all day, but man, let's get to these fan questions. We're gonna hit them up, sign pictures for them too, but at Mnich4 wants to know, what was it like going against the country's best number ones on the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, it was amazing. You kind of get used to it the more you go against it. But you cherish it the more you see other offense. When you go out and play other offense, you like, dang, they don't have a D.D. Westbrook, they don't have a Hollywood, they don't have a Sterling Shepard. You kind of glad that you got to prepare against the best. It kind of makes everything easier on Saturday, and that's why it's so important to get a lot of ones versus ones work in practice and stuff like that. You kind of get to see the best guys, and you kind of get to over prepare for who you're going against.
That's real. Same here. We used to do that same shit. At D Frank DLF wants to know, what was the moment or person that made you see that in order to move forward, you had to embrace the academic requirements of playing at a school like OU?
Yeah, that would definitely be after I failed high school. I kind of had I had already had that chip on my shoulder that, like I told you, after I failed in high school and I saw that you could actually fail if you don't get the job done. There's no loophole to getting it done. And I learned that once you do fail, it's on you. It's like it's nobody's fault but yours. And so, you know, I had that chip on my shoulder, and ever since then, you know, I've been one of those guys of just no excuses, get the job done no matter what.
That's real. At Jacob Leahy, 78. If you had to do it all over again, would you change anything about your football career?
No, I don't think so. I from everything I can remember, and every thought that I have written down, I remember going 110%. You know, even games that I played not up to par, I prepared well. You know, and I think a lot of guys have vouched for me. I was one of those guys that I've always got my sleep, even early in the week. I was never a party guy. I was focused. Like, you know, I lived and slept this game. You know what I mean? And I think, you know, that's kind of what puts me at peace, being able to step away from the game and it not killing me because I know that I gave everything.
Okay. At _Jalen Ross, this is one of my boy T. Ross's son, and he's the Holland Bowl champion. They went undefeated this year in our league, and put it on us too.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, congratulations. So, favorite post-game locker room memories?
I think that would be 2016. Oklahoma State was. Oh no, I'm gonna go 2015, man. I'm gonna go 2015 versus Baylor. Actually, that was a big game down in Waco. I just remember the team just feeling like a real brotherhood. You know, we would always get together on Sundays and just watch football games and eat. And I remember us talking about on Saturdays, like, it's going up tomorrow, y'all. You know, we'd always meet at Eric Striker, Tap, and Zach Sanchez all live together. We would meet there every Sunday. So that was probably the best. I felt, you know, the team was just singing songs together, rapping music and stuff like that. It was a great experience.
That's funny. I don't know if you've seen, but Sanchez and Stryker gonna start a pod. He said,
okay,
he announced on here.
Okay,
so you have to check it out. So, at F5 Rugby wants to know, what was your most memorable moment in your high school football career, and then what team did you dislike the most? I'm guessing they're asking about college team.
Okay. My most memorable high school play was we actually played the guy that played at West Virginia, David Sales, the receiver.
Oh, man.
He was a quarterback in high school. He the guy, he committed to USC when he was in the 8th grade, so he was kind of like a...
You're right.
Yeah, he was a high school phenom type of guy, and they was a school in Delaware. You know, they was kind of like out of conference game, and it was a big test for us. You know, they had a bunch of guys going Division I, big Division I, and you know, I think the end of the first quarter, I caught a pick six against them, kind of manipulated them into thinking I was into 3 and I was in 4, and I was at the cover 2 corner. He threw the out and I just picked it off. And so that was probably one of the most unique plays I remember.
I got to, and he also wanted to know what college team you disliked the most.
I think, man, it's Texas.
It got to be Texas. Absolutely.
Man.
That's the only reason you come here. But I got to know, now that you mentioned it in Baltimore, other great players from your area that you played against or that you grew up watching. Just talk to me about that.
Tay Austin, that's like the guy. You know, that's the guy in the city. Tavon Austin. Then I would probably say Stephon Diggs, Cyrus Jones. Actually, my rival school was Cyrus Jones, and those guys, they were real good, actually. Steph Diggs was just one of the best. And then I got a bunch of dudes on my team. We actually got, in my secondary from high school, 3 of the 4 guys played in the NFL. Got Adrian Amos, he plays for the Bears, then he plays for the Packers now. He starts. Trevor Williams starts for the Chargers. And then we got a guy named Daquan Davis. He went to Penn State. He actually trains us now, and we all were on the same defensive backfield. He trains back at home right now. So, I mean, the guys on my team were like really, really good. You know.
That's what's up, man. So, man, I appreciate you giving back to our school, brother. I appreciate you giving to the pod. Shit, we got to go ahead and book a part 2, man.
Yeah,
might
for sure.
Need to get you and Sanchez on at the same time. We talk
man,
more
that'd be cool.
Stories.
Because you know he got the LeBron thing going.
Yeah,
we might need to see face to face.
Exactly, man. Well, shit, man, I appreciate you, brother, man. It was a hell of a show. Man, my boy Brad Reed's going to add some highlights of this. Fans going to love this shit, man. It's been another great episode of Fullback U.
Yep.